Wouldn't it be like the most petty, humiliating, yet startling thing if I just fired my hat at him?
You know that feeling when you meet someone and you just can't stand them? When everything about a person rubs you the wrong way, and you have to work with them every single day. Well, imagine being Ron Howard, one of the nicest guys in Hollywood, and feeling that way about someone on your movie set. This is a story of how one of the kindest directors in the business found himself utterly despising someone he had to work with. And trust me, when you hear what happened, you'll understand exactly why. Ron Howard is famous for being a genuinely good person. He started as a child actor on The Andy Griffith Show, grew up to be Richie Cunningham on Happy Days, and then became one of Hollywood's most respected directors. He's made incredible movies like Apollo 13, A Beautiful Mind, and Frost Nixon. People who work with him always say the same thing. He's patient, he's kind, and he treats everyone with respect. So when Ron Howard can't stand someone, you know that person must have done something really, really bad. This whole situation happened during one of the most stressful movie productions in Hollywood history. We're talking about a film that was already in trouble before Ron Howard even got involved. The movie had a different director at first, but things went so wrong that the studio fired that director and brought in Ron Howard to save the project. Can you imagine the pressure? He had to step into a movie that was already falling apart, with millions of dollars on the line, and try to fix everything. Now, here's where it gets interesting. Ron Howard is a professional. He's dealt with difficult actors before. He's handled tough producers, demanding studio executives, and all kinds of challenging personalities. But there was one person on this particular set who pushed him to his absolute limit. And the crazy thing is, this person wasn't even one of the main actors. This was someone whose behavior was so toxic, so unprofessional, and so disruptive that even the most patient director in Hollywood couldn't take it anymore. Let me paint you a picture of what was happening behind the scenes. Movie sets are already stressful places. You've got hundreds of people working together, tight schedules, huge budgets, and enormous pressure to get everything right. Everyone has a job to do, and when one person isn't pulling their weight or is causing problems, it affects everybody. Now multiply that stress by 100 because this was a major studio production with massive expectations. The person Ron Howard despised wasn't just being difficult. They were being actively destructive. They would show up late, unprepared, and with an attitude that suggested they didn't care about anyone else's time or effort. They would argue with crew members, challenge Ron's directions, and create an atmosphere of tension wherever they went. Imagine trying to direct a scene with dozens of moving parts, expensive special effects, and a tight schedule, and having someone constantly undermining your authority and disrupting the flow. What made it even worse was that Ron Howard couldn't just fire this person. Due to contracts, studio politics, or other complicated Hollywood reasons, he was stuck working with them. He had to find a way to get through each day, get the shots he needed, and somehow maintain his sanity while dealing with someone who seemed determined to make his life miserable. The other cast and crew members noticed what was happening. They saw how this person's behavior was affecting Ron, and many of them felt terrible about it. Some actors tried to help by being extra cooperative and professional, trying to make up for the negativity this other person was bringing to the set. The crew members did their best to work around the problems, but there's only so much you can do when someone is actively causing chaos. Ron Howard is someone who believes in communication. He believes in talking through problems, finding solutions, and treating people with dignity. So he tried. He really tried to work things out with this difficult person. He had private conversations. He offered guidance. He even tried to understand where they were coming from. But nothing worked. Every attempt at reconciliation or improvement just seemed to make things worse. The person either didn't care or didn't want to change. Here's what a lot of people don't understand about directing movie. It's not just about calling action and cut. A director is like the captain of a ship. They have to keep hundreds of people motivated, focused, and working together toward a common goal. They have to make thousands of decisions every day, from tiny details about lighting to huge choices about how a scene should play out. And they have to do all of this while staying calm, creative, and in control. When someone on your set is working against you instead of with you, it's like trying to sail a ship while someone is drilling holes in the bottom. The stress started to show. People who worked on that production have talked about how you could see the frustration on Ron's face. This man, who is known for his endless patience, his warm smile, and his encouraging words, was visibly struggling. He would take deep breaths before dealing with this person. He would sometimes walk away for a moment to collect himself, and there were reportedly times when the tension was so thick you could cut it with a knife. But here's the thing about Ron Howard that makes this story even more powerful. Even though he utterly despised this person, even though every fiber of his being probably wanted to explode or walk away, he stayed professional. He kept showing up. He kept doing his job. He found ways to work around the problems and still make the best movie he possibly could. That takes an incredible amount of strength and self-control. Think about it from Ron's perspective for a moment. He's already under enormous pressure to save this movie. His reputation is on the line. The studio is watching his every move. The cast is looking to him for leadership. The crew is depending on him to guide them through this challenging production. And on top of all that, he has to deal with someone who is making everything 10 times harder than it needs to be. Most people would have cracked under that kind of pressure. The impact of the situation went beyond just Ron Howard's personal feelings. The entire production suffered. Days that should have been productive became exercises in damage control. Scenes that should have been completed quickly took hours longer because of the disruptions. The budget swelled because of the delays. And perhaps most importantly, the creative energy that should have been flowing freely was constantly being blocked by negativity and conflict. Other actors on the set have shared their own experiences with this difficult person. They talked about how uncomfortable it was to work in that environment. Some of them tried to be peacemakers, attempting to smooth things over between Ron and this person. Others just kept their heads down and tried to do their jobs without getting caught in the crossfire. A few brave souls even confronted the person directly, telling them that their behavior was unacceptable and needed to change. What's fascinating about this whole situation is how it reveals the true character of Ron Howard. Anyone can be nice when everything is going well. Anyone can be patient when they are working with people they like. But it takes a special kind of person to maintain their professionalism and their commitment to their work when they are dealing with someone they can't stand. Ron showed the world what real strength looks like. It's not about physical power or loud confrontations. It's about staying true to your values even when it's incredibly difficult. The person who caused all this trouble probably had no idea how much damage they were doing. Or maybe they did know and didn't care. Either way, their behavior left a lasting impression on everyone involved with that production. Years later, when people talk about that movie, they don't just remember the challenges of the shoot or the last-minute director change. They remember the toxic atmosphere created by one person's unprofessional behavior. Hollywood is a small world in many ways. People talk. Reputations matter. And when someone behaves badly on a major production, especially when they make life difficult for someone as respected as Ron Howard, word gets around. Other directors hear about it. Producers take note. Studios remember. The entertainment industry might seem glamorous from the outside, but it's also a business where your reputation can make or break your career. Ron Howard eventually got through that production. He finished the movie, and despite all the behind-the-scenes drama, he delivered something that audiences could enjoy. That's the mark of a true professional. He didn't let his personal feelings about one difficult person destroy the project or affect the final product. He found a way to separate his emotions from his work, which is incredibly difficult to do. Looking back on this experience, Ron has been fairly diplomatic in interviews. He doesn't throw people under the bus. He doesn't name names or go into gossipy details. But those who were there, those who witnessed what happened, they know the truth. They saw how one person's behavior pushed even the kindest, most patient director in Hollywood to his breaking point. And they saw how Ron Howard, despite utterly despising this person, still managed to rise above it and do his job with integrity. This story teaches us something important about working with others. It doesn't matter if you're making a movie, working in an office, or collaborating on a school project. When you're part of a team, your behavior affects everyone around you. If you show up with a bad attitude, if you don't pull your weight, if you create drama and conflict, you're not just hurting yourself. You're hurting everyone who has to work with you. And even if those people are too professional to say something to your face, they'll remember. They'll know who you really are. It also shows us that even good people have their limits. Ron Howard is known for his kindness, but that doesn't mean he's a doormat. That doesn't mean he has to tolerate terrible behavior without feeling anything about it. He's human, just like the rest of us. He has feelings, he has breaking points, and he has people whose behavior he simply cannot stand. The difference is that he knows how to handle those feelings in a professional way. The movie industry is full of stories like this, but most of them stay hidden behind closed doors. Actors and directors usually don't talk publicly about who they couldn't stand working with. They give diplomatic answers in interviews, smile for the cameras, and keep their real feelings private. So when we do get glimpses into these situations, when we hear about how even someone as nice as Ron Howard can utterly despise a co-worker, it reminds us that the glamorous world of Hollywood has the same human drama as any other workplace. What's really interesting is thinking about how this person probably tells a story differently. They might not even realize they were the problem. They might think Ron Howard was being unfair or difficult. They might have justified their behavior in their own mind, convincing themselves that they were just standing up for themselves or being true to their artistic vision. That's how it works sometimes. People can behave terribly and still see themselves as a hero of their own story. The legacy of this difficult production and Ron Howard's experience with this despised person has become part of Hollywood lore. Film students study it as an example of how to handle production challenges. Industry professionals reference it when talking about the importance of professionalism on set. And fans of Ron Howard respect him even more for getting through it with his reputation and his work intact. In the end, this story is about more than just one director disliking one difficult person. It's about the challenge of maintaining your values and your professionalism when you're pushed to your limit. It's about the importance of treating people with respect, even when they are driving you crazy. And it's about the strength it takes to finish what you started, even when every day feels like a battle. Ron Howard came out of this experience as the bigger person. He didn't let his feelings compromise his work. He didn't let one toxic person poison his love for filmmaking. He showed up, he did his job, and he moved on to create many more successful films. That's the kind of resilience and character that makes someone a true professional and a respected leader in their field. So if you ever wondered whether nice guys can finish first in Hollywood, Ron Howard is your answer. Even when he utterly despised someone he had to work with, even when that person made his life miserable day after day, he never compromised his values. He stayed true to who he is, and that's why he's still one of the most respected directors in the business today. If you enjoyed this deep dive into one of Hollywood's most interesting behind-the-scenes stories, make sure you hit that like button right now. It really helps the channel grow and lets me know you want more content like this. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss another video. Share this with your friends who love movie trivia and Hollywood stories. Drop a comment below and let me know what you think about this situation. Could you have handled it as well as Ron Howard did? Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.